answer because of how things unfold next.
Um,
So after
today
his
we're
arrest,
hiding.
they continue to find more things. They find a secret storage unit.
Today
No
we
one
are
knows about. I mean,
hunting for
Rubbermaid
Herobrine,
tub after
like
Rubbermaid
this
tub
the
of
worst
morbid
person in the
pornographic
world
material.
that is
Receipts,
within
sex toys.
Minecraft
They
is
find
my
out he
little
had
brother,
a
and
secret
he's
bank
the
account
worst at
that
the
people
game.
didn't know about. They find this like waste belt contraption that like hooked onto his belt and had all these little like sharp
He
instruments
literally
that came
is
out
so
of it.
scared.
Like,
He
what
didn't
do you need
want
that for?
to
But the reason I say we don't know
kill
the extent
Herobrine
is
with
because
me. I tried
after
it
all this is
before.
collected,
And
everything
trust
from
me,
his home to
can
his
you
storage
heal him?
unit, it is all
He said I'm bad at Minecraft.
and over the course of like 8 hours, burned.
Do you even
Like
know what?
completely
You don't
destroyed.
even know what drown
And
is.
Jim Broderick, like some people are at least asking questions about
Almost
this. And
everyone.
our guy Jim Broderick is back to give a quote to the Denver Post about why he destroyed all of this evidence in this case. And he said, quote, should we re-victimize all these women by telling them they are victims? So really, it's an effort to protect them, to preserve
You can don't yell!
45 minutes! 10 minutes from when you asked me the
we're doing
last
stuff with
time.
me, so we're to you, we're to our crime junkies.
You
What
hear
he's
me?
saying here, like, I
you.
cannot make sense. Like, me victimizing them, like, telling them that's not how that works.
Hey guys, you
No,
heard
then that
that?
doesn't happen. And
My
the thing I
brother
have the
could
biggest
get
problem with
arrested.
is this idea of the last line to preserve these victims' rights. That's why
I'm
we
joking.
destroyed
I
it.
don't know.
By destroying it, and not like commissioner. I say like I get as a victim like wanting those tapes to be destroyed. If that existed of me, I wouldn't feel safe even with a tape like that locked in like evidence locker. But I want the choice. Yeah, they didn't have it. I made the choice for them to preserve their rights. But by destroying it, what they did was actually take away any future right they might have for repercussions. They can no longer go after Hammond's estate. Were there other people on those tapes that they could go after? We'll never know because, by the way, when they destroyed everything, they had not viewed most of it. Like, they just took it all away without knowing what was on the majority of those tapes, which is bananas to me. And the whole way that these were destroyed, when they look into this went against every policy and procedure they had in place about how to deal with evidence. It just all goes up in smoke. Literally. Burned it. Yes. Anyways, Jim Broderick would have you believe that they did this for a noble reason. And I do think there are people out there doing noble things for noble reasons. I haven't seen a whole lot of them. I'd love to meet more. Yes. But in the theme of always going a layer deeper, which is our new crime junkie lifestyle, I like to ask not just what happened, but why do we think it happened? Here's a fun fact. In the couple of days between when Hammond was arrested, but before he died, they were having to think about, like, taking this to a trial. Like, there could be a case around this. And they were going to have to appoint a special prosecutor because they quickly found out that members of the DA's office, quote, had been guests at Hammond's home and may have been videoed. Oh, I think we have our reason for why all of that evidence was destroyed. But they are quick to write this off. Like, the same way when Tim, right, when he gets exonerated, they're like, let's just make this go away. And when this happened, they wanted this to go away. So much so that they were even writing off stories that made no sense. Like, people were like, oh, he wouldn't have hurt Peggy because, like, he didn't even use a scalpel. Yes, he was a doctor in surgical precision, all that, but he didn't even use scalpels. But, like, a guy who he ran the practice with is like, yeah, we absolutely do. And there's an affidavit from a woman who's like, he literally used a scalpel on me. And just to show you how far under the rug they were pushing this thing, everything in the paper, like at the time, was about the videotapes or whatever. Nobody publicly was connecting this guy to Peggy's killing in 1995. And nobody was telling Peggy's killing about him, even behind the scenes. Tom didn't find out about Dr. Hammond until years later. And the way he found out was through me.
Yes, it is.
Not the
A few years ago, we talked about a doctor.
Let
I
me
was
see what
coming
they
out
look
of the
like.
building with my friend, and he
Not
looked at the
them.
news box, wrapping up
There's another bag of
Peggy's
Tostitos.
picture on the front cover of the newspaper.
Yes.
He said, hey,
They're
look,
blue,
that's
not
the picture.
teal.
He got the newspaper.
They're
and
blue,
he
not
read it,
cyan.
Oh
I read
my
it.
god. You like
I
Cayenne.
tuned over and I went, what?
I had blue
We're
chips.
looking for McDonald's. Y'all
Nobody's
just
ever
help me
told
keep
me
your
about
eyes
this
out.
guy.
Hey,
Fine,
So
I'm
the
playing a
defense
game with
never
I saw
knew
you.
about any
No,
of
she's
that.
not.
Not just the Hammond
All
stuff,
right,
but there's
Mom,
too much of what we
call Georgie to see
in looking at the file,
if
when I say
she's
there's more
here.
to be done, I mean, I was also coming across names of people it didn't seem like they really dug into. A guy named Greg
McDonald's and
Case,
Yale.
who she was
Are
like
we
dating
in
at
a
the time.
city?
Derek Cordova, who she had gone out with in the past.
Nice.
A guy named Tim
Then
Matthews, who
I'll be
apparently liked
going
Peggy
on
and
the
was
way
jealous
to the
of
beach.
Matt. And I'm not saying
Yes,
those guys
we're
had
almost
anything
30
to do
minutes
with
from the
anything.
beach.
But to
When
me,
have
those
I
are people
been
who
to
were
a city?
really close to her, who hung
How
out with her,
many
who
times
maybe were
have
with her in
I
the
been?
times leading up to her
How many
death.
times have I been
I
to
know. And so when I say that more can be done, I don't think we can just
no.
rely on DNA. And
Yeah, how
try it
much
quick.
times
I
have
think
I
there's gonna
been
have
to
be
a beach?
legwork, and I think there's still a lot of legwork that can be done even decades later. Right, but we
Maybe
know that he
7.
was
Or
exonerated
maybe
in part
1.
by the DNA evidence. So
Case.
like whatever happened
Remember last
to
time?
those
Think
partial
back
matches.
when we were in
So
the
we
beach
did
in the
get some
same
partial
place. Think
profiles,
back.
and none of those matched him. So there were some important
And
ones.
then
There was
today
one
is our
on the
second
front
one.
waistband of Peggy's
2.
underwear. And everything we had comes from Peggy DNA, right? There was no
Alright, so